Hi Clay County, I am your elected collector, Lydia McEvoy, and I have thought for a long time about doing a series of videos to try to help answer a lot of the questions that we face across our counter and on our phones every year, where people have tried to fill out their forms and do everything right with taxes, but somehow they missed and they did something wrong, and now they face interest and penalties, or they're late, or it caused them to have to take a day off work. And I don't like to see that happen because I know people mean well. So I'm going to try throughout this year to do a series of videos showing how to do some of the most basic functions that will make sure that your record is clean with Clay County and that you get your bill and that you're able to pay it. So the first thing I'm going to do today is just talk about personal property taxes in the state of Missouri in general, because they are weird. Missouri is one of the only states that does it this way. And why you have to fill out a form, what happens with that data. So first thing you need to remember is January 1. January 1 is the big magical date in all Missouri counties. All personal property taxation is based on what you owned on January 1. Literally, if you buy a car January 2nd, you do not owe taxes on it for that entire year. On the other hand, if you wreck your car on January 2nd, you owe taxes for that entire year. That's just the way the law is written. So that's the big magical date. So when you're filling out your assessment form, you need to always be thinking only of that day. Where did I live and what did I own? Did I live, if you moved in the Kansas City area, Clay, Platte, Jackson, did I live in Clay County on January 1? If I did, what did I own on that day? If I bought or sold a car sometime during the year, whatever, what did I own on that day? And that's what goes on your assessment list. Missouri is what is called a self-declaration state. And what that means is that we are only allowed to tax you for what you tell us you own. And all the responsibility is placed on you by state law. So we don't pull records from the DMV. We don't pull records to know where you lived or what you owned. It's on you to report that to us. That might not be super convenient, but it's just the way the law is written. So I just wanted to let you know. If you don't fill out a form, you won't get a bill. You might think that's awesome until you go to tag your vehicle a couple years later and you don't have a paid receipt showing that vehicle. So this is the key to getting the whole thing started, is getting your assessment form filled out correctly. Once you do that, and I'm just going to talk about cars, for the most part, cars, boats, trailers. We assess everything all the way down to grain and pea hens in Missouri. But if you have questions about business property or farm property, please talk to the assessor's office, because I don't know exactly how they track all that. I'm talking about things that you're going to need a paid receipt when you go to the DMV, because that's what we deal the most with people, and that's what gives the most frustration to people. So you have a car, you have a boat, you have a trailer, anything that's licensed or tagged through the DMV. The assessor is going to take the market value, and they use the NADA. Think of it as the Blue Book. It's similar to the Kelly Blue Book. If you can get more specifics from the assessor's office, exactly what value they use. I know that our assessor uses a little bit more fairer rate to you than she absolutely would have to under Missouri law. You take the market value of your vehicle. The assessment rate for cars is 1/3 of that, 33% of that. So you have a $9,000 vehicle. The assessment rate is you only pay taxes on $3,000 of that car. That's the assessed value. You have a $9,000 vehicle. The assessed value is $3,000. So for your average Clay County household that might have two sort of decent vehicles, they probably add up to about $30,000 in value. That's $10,000 of assessed value that you're going to pay taxes on. Then my office takes that assessed value, multiplies it by whatever levies all the different school districts and cities put together, and that's how we create your tax bill. A lot of people ask us, well, how do I know what I'm going to own, what I'm going to owe? We can't tell you exactly because it depends on the exact assessed value, but you can do a rough estimate by taking 1/3 of the market value and then figure, depending on what school district you live in the Northland, about 8 to 10% of that assessed value. So those Clay County families that have $30,000 worth of cars in their driveway, which is $10,000 worth of assessed value, are going to owe a total bill of somewhere between $800 to $1,000 a year. It's a chunk. It's not just a tiny little amount, and that's every year. So that's why I would like to get this information out to you, because it can really shock people. It's not just a tiny little amount. And the 8 to 10 varies. If you're in the Liberty School District, that's one of the higher levies. The Kearney School District is one of the lower levies. It just depends. But if you estimate that and set that aside, then you're going to be good at the end of the year. So this is how the entire process gets started. This also tells you which office you need to go to fix a problem. If you have the wrong address on your bill, if you listed the wrong vehicle, if you have a dispute with them about the value. Notice that all of these start with the word assessed. Assessment, assessed value. So all of these problems are fixed at the assessor's office. Then, once you have properly stated where you lived, what you owned, and the value has been set, then any other questions where the bill itself got mailed, possibly, or interest, penalties, payment of the total amount due, then that's resolved by my office. So that's the collector's office. And I wanted to give you one other piece of information. I'll just put it right here. The personal property department at the assessor's office is 3520, and the main number for my office is 3200. We don't have different departments necessarily in my office, so 3200. The assessor's office does have a business personal property division and a real estate, so they have different extensions. So that's who to talk to if you have an issue with a vehicle. Also, one last thing to keep in mind, when you're filling out an assessment form, you're essentially swearing out an affidavit. You are swearing under penalties of perjury that that's what you owned. That's why they have to talk to you in person, and they often can't do these things over the phone or email. They can work with you sometimes, and you can call them and ask about that, but they really need the right person standing before them promising that this is what they owned, because they can't just take any person's word for it, because in their situation, you're legally declaring that that's what you owned. When it comes to paying tax bills, moms can pay kids' tax bills, friends can pay friends' tax bills. We're not really concerned if you want to pay somebody else's tax bill, that's fine. But when it comes to assessment, that's why they tend to insist that they speak to you in person, and that you present documentation of what you owned and when and where and all that, because you're actually creating a legal document on their side. So I hope this helps. Thank you so much. If you ever have any questions, really on any of it, feel free to call my office. And then that's also the assessor's extension if you have any questions about personal property.